And good morning, everybody. Good Erev Shabbos. We are now excited to learn some Sfas Emes, the Sfas Emes on this week's Parsha, Parshas Teztaveh. Thank you all so much for, participating. We are learning Lalias Neshama, the Schuldenrein family who were killed al Hashem by the Nazis, You know, the fact that we now have this new month of Adar provides all kinds of exciting approaches to the the Torah learning, and the Sfas Emes is going to discuss that. Adar, we know the phrase Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. When Adar arrives, there's more Simcha, and this month we of course are blessed with not just one but two months of Adar, and we're going to learn a new element of it. In other words, that it's not just that Adar is not just about joy. Another about like making joy in the sense of like party. We think of Purim, we think party. There's another element of joy of Adar, which has to do with one of the functions of the mitzvot. One of the things that the mitzvot do could bring us joy. So let's look into this. We're informed by, as always, the learning of Rabbi Shlomo Besser, Rabbi Nosson Chaim Leff, Alav Shalom, Rabbi Sfas Emes Blogspot, and the Sfas Emes himself. Okay. The Midrash. So right away he quotes the Midrash at the beginning of this week's Parsha, and he says that what is the beginning? It's about lighting the menorah. It's about lighting the menorah. So it says, Teztaveh b'nei Israel, you will command the children of Israel. And Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, commands the children of Israel to light the menorah. Now, usually when the Torah says what God is instructing Moshe, the words are often Daber el b'nei Israel. He says, God says to Moshe, speak to the children of Israel. Why here does the Parsha say Teztaveh, and you will command? If God is saying it, it's a command. It's not like a recommendation, I think, right? God is saying, so why the lashon of, why is the language used Teztaveh, which is a command? So that's the first question that we're asking. Sfas Emes reminds us that the lamps in the menorah are not just physical lamps. They remind us of, and they're connected to, the mitzvot. We have the pasuk, we have the line in Mishlei, in Proverbs, Ner mitzvah Torah or, a commandment is a lamp and the Torah is a light. And just as a light needs a lamp to hold it, so the light of Torah needs a vessel to contain it. As physical light, so too the light of Torah is ephemeral. It needs a mechanism for being drawn into influencing the world. Right? You have something which is out there, but it needs a vessel to contain it and then to be able to channel it into the world. But we have to know, we channel that light of Torah into the world when we do the mitzvot. It's not our power, right? It is the power of Torah, which is the power of God, right? And when we do the mitzvot, when we create that connection, so we're channeling that light into the world. And the reason it works is because this was the way that Hashem designed the world. He And that's why it says Teztaveh. That's why it says first I will command, and then it says the mitzvah of the candle of the nerot of the lights. In other words, if you dig into the very, very closely and look at the parsha, it says Atat Teztaveh b'nei Israel. You will command the Jewish people. So there's an idea here that the first level is that it's God's command, and then it has to do with what the command is, and that the command plays an integral part in the ability of a mitzvah to bring light into the world. And it's to pronounce the power of the Torah and the mitzvos that God gave to the Jewish people. And it says, right, ner mitzvah, the light of the light of the mitzvah, uba midrash b'zohar v'kadosh, and we see in the midrash and in the Zohar, shetayrag mitzvos. Tayrag mitzvos means the 613 mitzvot in the Torah are connected, neged ramach aver adam, are connected to the different parts of the body. That the 613 mitzvot are connected to the limbs, the sinews, the bones, the muscles, the nerves, all of the elements that make up the human body are connected to the number of mitzvot in the Torah, that they are equivalent. V'ayidei mitzvos, and that when a person is doing a mitzvah, naseh ha'ever, that particular limb of the person becomes a kli, becomes a vessel, le'or ha'chochma, to the light of wisdom, sheyesh b'moyach, which is within the mind, kol echad mi'Yisrael al yedei ha'or ha'Torah. So when a person's doing a mitzvah, that this light comes to the world through the limb. Now, if it's a mitzvah having to do with a physical action, so then that limb literally is the limb involved in it, right? And very often, right, mitzvot involve physical activity. And sometimes mitzvot don't involve any specific obvious physical activity. It's about a mindful state or something that we say, and then that has an influence on our mind as well. So, v'ramach mitzvos im ahava v'yira olim ner. And if you take the gematria of the 600 so there's 248 and so the mitzvot are apologize if I'm going too fast. The mitzvot are two classes, right? Positive and negative. There's 248 positive commandments, and that's what he's speaking about here. 248 positive commandments, right? And the 248 limbs parallel the positive commandments. And hope that, so he says, if you add to the positive commandments and you do them with yira, and how about you do them with awe and love, with love and awe, be a great name for a book, love and awe, right? If you do the mitzvahs with love and awe, so what's the gematria? 248 plus those two, you get to ner. It equals ner, which is light. So if you do the mitzvahs with love and awe, then you're able to bring that light of God into the world. We could just end it right there. That's so awesome. What a powerful idea, right? What a powerful idea. This is the Zohar. This is what the Zohar teaches on this idea. And v'nikra mitzvahs. Why is a mitzvah called a mitzvah? In other words, why do we? So he says, and he quotes it. It's the Degel Machane Ephraim, who he's quoting, and the Torah and others. Mitzvah is connected to the word. There's a word in Aramaic which means savta, which is a connection. She'al yedei ma'aseh mitzvah, that through the action of the mitzvah, timshacha oisos ha'adam, it continues through the person, asiyos ha'adam, the action of the individual, la'ora mitzvahs, to the light of the mitzvah, nitkan ha'asiyah gamken. So when a person is doing a mitzvah, the act that a person is doing becomes holy, and it becomes a connection point between them and God. And this is why it says, I will command, with this lashon tetzaveh, and not. Remember, we started off our discussion today. Why didn't the Torah begin this? Why didn't God begin it right? And I will normally, right? Daber b'nei Israel, right? Why didn't the normal beginning? Because we have to learn something about the essence of a mitzvah. That when we do mitzvos, we are mechuber, we are attached. Alav to Hashem, shehu das, which is to the das, which is knowledge, that Torah should be Israel. And this is all expanded upon, should one want to, in the Zohar. And he says, Tanchuma, Melech Asur. Okay, so then he goes into another direction. So I want to, again, we could keep going. We just got through one small portion of the Sfas Emes. What we want to finish with today is something that the Chiddushei Rim says towards the end of, he said, and then his grandson, the Sfas Emes, quoted. Now back to Adar. Okay. So the word Adar is also, it's connected to the word Eder, which is a maple tree. And we see in Tehillim, in the Psalms 93, it says, Adir b'marom Hashem, God is strong on high. That's also like Adir, Adar, Eder. All these words are connected. Adar, the month, Eder, the maple tree, Adir, on high. Eder and Adir and Adar. When a person plants a maple tree, it's a metaphor for knowing. This is a Chazal. This is based on if you want to look it up, it's in the Gemara in Beitza, page 15b. So the sages say there that planting a maple tree is a metaphor for knowing that our assets and strength and awareness, right? Our assets and our strength, everything comes from Hashem, the maple tree. Okay? And the sages are teaching us, how does a maple tree do this? So it's not that there's a physical property of the maple tree that somehow protects our assets, right? It's not that the maple is protecting us. Is that awareness of God is a protective and strengthening device in and of itself. Just awareness of God. And so perhaps when we see the maple tree, it's beautiful. It gives us that awareness, a reminder that God is with us, and that gives us the strength, right? Now, continuing. How does it connect to Adar? So he says like this. This is the Chiddushei Rim through the Sfas Emes. Adar is a time especially fashioned, created, to work on our awareness that when we do a mitzvah, it's a conduit for drawing God's light and the light of Torah into the world. Adar, I'll say it again because it's so profound. Adar is a time which is mesugel, right? It's especially appropriate to do the growth work and have an awareness that when we do a mitzvah, and we do them all the time, and sometimes we don't even think about them. That when we do a mitzvah, we are drawing God's light and the light of Torah into the physical world. So now, it kind of if you think about it, right? Think about it doesn't require any money. It doesn't require any specific knowledge. Any single person is capable of bringing the light of God and Torah into the world. It's anybody can do it. And so therefore, that in and of itself should provide a person with a level of joy. There's no prerequisites. All of us can achieve this. I want to wish everybody a beautiful Shabbos, and please God, we will all be together in Yerushalayim,